You can't obey the law only when it's convenient. You can't be patriotic when you embrace and enable lies.
It's going to be a heavier Friday than normal. I apologize for that, but there's just some things that have to be said. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. It starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the same dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world as normal. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. I know it's Friday. I know we're going into the weekend. Generally, we try to keep it lighter on a Friday, and there's a lot of stuff going on. The Supreme Court is hearing vaccine mandate oral arguments today. Australia is going further nuts than Northern Territory, guys. We'll play that stuff next week. I don't really even know where to start here. I want to talk about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's speeches yesterday. Again, there's a lot of stuff happening, and I'm sure you can find news for that in other places. Keep it short and sweet today. I've got a couple clips from what I thought was one of the, and I'm not a bomb chucker, but one of the worst performances by a sitting president in a long time in regards to giving a national public speech about something. Maybe you didn't think so, maybe you didn't agree, but I got a lot to say about what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden did yesterday. Instead of what I think they should have done, what they could have done that actually would have benefited the country moving forward, they decided not to do that. So we're going to keep it short and sweet today. Not going to get into all the other news of the day. Just going to, there's stuff that's got to be said on that, and that's where I want to get to. So since it's a little bit unorthodox today, I got to get to this first. Inflation is through the roof. I know you see prices going up where you are. Gas prices are through the roof. The price of meat is insane. The value of your dollar is continuing to go down and down and down. Yesterday, the jobless claims reports came out, way bigger than people would have thought, which means the government's going to put more money into the system, which is going to make prices go up even further. You have to protect yourself and your savings against government sabotaging the value of the US dollar. The best way you can do that is precious metals. Historically, precious metals has been the way to go. And the best way that you can invest in precious metals, because you might be thinking, I don't know how to invest in precious metals. How do I even do that? Our friends at Birch Gold are the best people to help you do that. You can convert an IRA that you already have into a gold-backed IRA. You can convert your 401k into a gold-backed IRA. There's so many things you can do, so many ways you can help keep your savings protected from the inflation monster, and our friends at Birch Gold can help you do it. If you text JOBOB, my name, Jobob, 989898, you can get a 20-page, full-blown pamphlet on how you can protect yourself. Again, no obligation, no risk. This is friend to friend. You need it. You need to do it, or else the government's going to steal your money by way of taxes and inflation. So you need to help protect yourself by learning everything you can about investing in precious metals. So do that, JOBOB to 989898. Do it today. You won't regret it. Again, friend to friend, you need to do this. Back to this. So yesterday, Joe Biden gave a speech. Yesterday, of course, was the anniversary of the Capitol riot, which is what I'm calling it. Insurrection is not a good vocabulary term for what happened on January 6th. Man, there's so much to be said. But I had the biggest problem with what Joe Biden said. And again, I'm not a bomb chucker on this show. I don't get out there and say, oh, this is the worst thing ever all the time. In instances like this, when I do think something is as bad as what President Biden did yesterday. A lot of the country, I think, we know for this for a fact, but a lot of the country did not like Donald Trump. Regardless of the policies, because the policies turned out to benefit a lot of people, a majority of Americans. The big tax program benefited you. So we're not talking about the policies, but a lot of people had a problem with the temperament of Donald Trump. And I understand that. I get it. I'm a policy guy. I don't care about what the president tweets at all. I don't care if he's a mean person or she's a mean person. I care nothing about their demeanor when it comes to the Oval Office. I care about the policies that affect American people. So that didn't affect me, but a lot of people didn't like the demeanor of Donald Trump, and they went with Joe Biden because he, historically speaking, has been a moderate, has been able to work with both sides of the aisle, is kind of even-tempered, right, not down the middle, but left of center. Turns out those people were dead wrong. Joe Biden, the second he got elected, apparently turned into Bernie Sanders and a partisan hack. Again, historically, throughout his Senate career, did he make some decisions that I wouldn't agree with? Yeah, absolutely. But I think a lot of Americans were under the impression that he was going to at least try to unite the country a little bit more. Obviously, your news media and your cable news channels and your alphabet networks and the internet haven't done a good job at uniting the country. So the people that were the never Trumpers and thought, you know what, moderate lefty of sorts, maybe we'll take a chance on him. It was understandable why they did so. Turns out that couldn't have been further from the truth. Joe Biden immediately got elected and, like I said, turned into a partisan hack. And yesterday was in my view, the full culmination of that. Why I think this is so important, and again, there's other important things happening during the day. You can find that news elsewhere. But why I think that this is so important is because we have a huge problem. And it's not a lefty problem, and it's not a righty problem. It's an American problem. We have become so at each other's throats constantly over politics that we can't function anymore. It doesn't seem like we can function anymore. And in the process of doing that over the last several years, this isn't new, this isn't specific to January 6th a year ago. This has been boiling up for years, and nobody is willing to talk about it. I think the first instance of political violence that I remember in modern history that for some reason America just accepted was a Donald Trump rally in Fresno, in which people who were going to the rally just got beaten in the streets by random thugs who didn't like Donald Trump for some reason. And again, for some reason, the lefty national media, the mainstream media, your online media sources didn't say a word about it. And guess what? You saw all of 2020, a lot in 2021, riots in the streets, people burning down cars and all that sort of stuff. And guess what? It slowly kept creeping until inevitably, you had a situation like January 6th, which I've said on this show before, and I'll continue saying it, was terrible. The January 6th riot was terrible. I didn't like the way Trump handled it. I don't think really nobody should like what happened on January 6th. And there are people from my own side saying that January 6th should be the new July 4th. That is just as bad of an analysis as your lefty mainstream media is taking it. January 6th was terrible, but it wasn't an isolated incident that hadn't been brewing for years and years and years, and nobody on the left, because that's where the majority of this came from leading up to that, said anything about it. And so the people who decided that they were going to storm the Capitol and try to upend the democratic system, do you think that if political violence was crushed where it was when those Trump rally goers were assaulted in Fresno, when the BLM riots were sweeping through the country, if those things got crushed immediately, do you really think that the people on January 6th would have had the audacity to do what they did? I don't think so. I think in an alternate universe where we crush political violence immediately, in terms of harsh, strict laws and strict penalties for those who commit political violence, especially on the left, if the left didn't turn a blind eye to all of the political violence going on for years now leading up to January 6th, I don't think we have January 6th. That's just what I think. And so, yesterday, I was hopeful. I knew Joe Biden was going to come out and say something, and I was hopeful that he was going to come out and say something that needed to be said. We can't have political violence on either side. Of course, he's going to condemn the January 6th rioters, but he also needed to condemn all of the violence that the left decided to turn a blind eye to for the last several years that, in my opinion, influenced in some way the people that decided to do what they did on January 6th. But no, he didn't do that. And that is what I think the biggest problem we have in the United States is. Political violence on the left or on the right should not be tolerated under any circumstances. But the left turned a blind eye, and this is what is happening. We are on a continuum, and I do not like where it leads. So yesterday, I was hopeful that Joe Biden would come out and say, look, what happened on January 6th was terrible. And what is happening across the country with riots, with political beatings outside of conservative rallies, all of that stuff, the burning down of federal buildings in Portland, all of these things are bad, and we need to, together as a country, stop. I was hopeful that he was going to say that, but he didn't. Here's some of the clips. This is just the first clip that I pulled from this speech. Listen to this.
I believe the power of the presidency and the purpose is to unite this nation, not divide it.
So I just want to play that quick clip before that because he went on to do exactly that. Just completely a partisan position based on, I don't know, raising money for his side, bolstering his side. Somebody needs to, and I was wishing it was Biden yesterday, somebody needs to condemn the political violence on all the sides. We can't have that in the United States of America. We have a process, we have a system. But instead, Joe Biden started to say stuff like this crap.
What did we not see? We didn't see a former president who had just rallied the mob to attack. And here's the truth. The former president of the United States of America has created and spread a web of lies about the 2020 election. He's done so because he values power over principle, because he sees his own interest as more important than his country's interest, than America's interest, and because his bruised ego matters more to him than our democracy or our Constitution. He can't accept he lost.
So, again, Joe Biden says the job of the president is to unite people, and then goes on a partisan rant about one specific instance and doesn't address the growing problem that we all have. And the irony there saying that, well, Donald Trump doesn't care about the country, only cares about himself. That was indicative of the president's entire speech yesterday. The only thing that speech is going to do is bolster his side, separate Americans who looked at the January 6th thing and said, this is terrible, but also looked at Antifa burning down federal buildings in Portland, BLM riots across the country, Trump supporters getting beaten outside of rallies, and also said that was terrible. All the political violence across the country is terrible. Yet Joe Biden only addressed one specific instance, which was really, in my mind, a culmination and steps forward to the inevitable path of a bad outcome, which we are screaming down the road towards. I know this is heavy. This is a Friday. Generally want to keep it light on a Friday, but I just, this needs to be said. This is not just a problem on the right. The whole election thing, we'll talk about that in a little bit with Kamala Harris. She did the same thing. And look, here's the thing too. If Joe Biden had come out and said, we need to stop political violence on all sides, I would have been on this show this morning applauding him. Do I disagree with him entirely on policy? Absolutely. But as an American who wants the country to continue to succeed and be able to work out our differences in a diplomatic manner, I don't want to see the president of the United States picking out one instance and slamming the other side of it. All political violence is bad in the United States of America. This is the last clip I've got from the president's speech yesterday.
You can't love your country only when you win. You can't obey the law only when it's convenient. You can't be patriotic when you embrace and enable lies.
You can't love your country only when you win. If you were with us on Wednesday, we played the Hillary Clinton clip where she decided that, well, the 2016 election wasn't sufficient. Remember, a third of Hillary Clinton voters thought the 2016 election was quote unquote rigged. So don't give me this crap that this is just one side who has this problem. Both sides have this problem. And I said my solution, especially to the election stuff, because that's what really was behind all the January 6th, is we need to go back to how things were. You go to your polling place, you show your ID, you get a ballot, you vote in private, you submit it into a concealed envelope, and then it's counted in front of the public eye. Seemed to work for a long time, and now we're just mailing ballots out. We're using software system. There's so many flaws that could potentially happen. People are losing faith in the election. And again, it's not good on either side. We need to have faith in our elections, or we don't have a country. Whether or not you win, I can handle losing elections. You should be able to handle losing elections, but when we don't really know who won, that's the problem we have. And what's going to happen, at least unless we make a huge turn directionally, what's going to happen is the next cycle, whoever wins, the other side is going to scream foul. What we need are two boring, who's the governor of Maryland, and like Amy Klobuchar, like two center-right, center-left politicians to run for president and it be an absolute blowout. That's what we need as a country. Because if it's a close election against two polarizing figures, holy cow, I'm worried. I don't even care who wins. All I care about is the fact that we're somehow okay with and tolerating political violence as long as it's on our side. That is not the way America is designed to operate, and it can't be how we go forward. I've got some Kamala clips from tomorrow. I'm sorry for doing this to you on a Friday. There is news to cover. Australia has some crazy COVID lockdowns. The Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments for vaccine mandates. I promised Kazakhstan news, but we're not going to get to that today. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. The DAs, there's DAs all over the country that are going bananas, but we'll talk about all this next week. Again, I thought the speeches given by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden yesterday were important enough to talk about because I think we need to have this conversation. Before we continue on with Kamala Harris, I got to get to this. Inflation is through the roof. We're bashing on the government right now, and deservingly so. The government is continuing to pump money into the system. There's so much money that's just not even earmarked for anything. It's just the government says we need to spend this. We don't know what to spend it on, so let's spend it on this. And what does money being infused into the system do? Well, as you've seen by your gas prices, your grocery prices, your utility bills, prices go up. And that, my friends, is called inflation. And it is not transitory like they told us at the beginning. It is real inflation and it's here to stay. You need to protect yourself. Historically, the best way to do that is through gold. I was super pumped when Birch Gold came to the Daily Caller and said, hey, we'd like to sponsor the show because I've been in precious metals for like 15 years. I know you might think, oh, you're too young to be in precious metals for 15 years. No, I've been in the precious metal game for a long time. And I think you need to do it too, because that is the best way you can protect yourself against the government sabotaging the US dollar. You can learn how to do that by texting JOBOB to 989898. You can get a risk-free, no obligation, no nothing pamphlet that tells you everything you need to know about protecting your savings by investing in gold. If you have a retirement plan, if you have an IRA, if you have a 401k, you can convert both of those to a gold-backed IRA fund to protect yourself against inflation. The government's doing everything it can to sabotage the value of the US dollar, and you need to protect yourself and your savings. So learn how to do that. Learn more from our friends at Birch Gold. A+ at the Better Business Bureau. Great company to work with. Text JOBOB to 989898. You can get a free, no obligation, no nothing pamphlet that tells you everything you need to know. Again, Birch Gold, great friend of the Daily Caller. Do it today. Help yourself out, and appreciate them taking the opportunity to be on the show. On to this. Kamala Harris, I'm sure you've seen the quotes that have been floating around the internet. But Kamala Harris opened up her speech again like this. Okay, and again, I'm just going to reiterate this again. I would have applauded both the president and vice president yesterday if they had come out and said, look, the political violence needs to stop. January 6th was terrible, but it was a culmination of an increasing violent acceptance in the United States. The violence on our side needs to stop. The violence on their side needs to stop. I would have applauded the president and the vice president, regardless of how much I disagree with them on policy. This, I think, is a bigger issue. But they didn't do that. Kamala Harris instead started off her speech saying this. This is bad.
Certain dates echo throughout history, including dates that instantly remind all who have lived through them where they were and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021.
So Kamala Harris decided to compare Pearl Harbor and September 11th to January 6th. Not a great way to unite the country. Again, if you want to actually unite, or at least help unite the country, again, pigs will fly before I agree with Kamala Harris on the majority of her policy issues. But if she were to condemn political violence on all sides, great. I'm all for it. No, instead, her and the president just took one isolated instance and said, this is the main problem. This is the main threat to America. It was just as bad as Pearl Harbor, just as bad as 9/11. About 2,500 Americans died at Pearl Harbor. About 3,000 people died on 9/11. One person was killed January 6th by the government. Those are not similar instances at all. Joe Biden also in his speech talked about elections integrities, which is, again, I think a big problem. If we lose faith in the election, we lose the country. I'm not fine with losing races. I can handle losing races. What I can't handle, and what America can't handle as a whole, is not being able to really know what happened in the elections. And like I said, all of this week, this is not a one-sided issue. Listen to this clip from The Breakfast Club, Charlemagne talking to Kamala Harris. He said something ridiculous. Kamala Harris not only did she not refute it, she seemed to agree. Listen to this.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right. So, again, as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, I will tell you that we should believe exactly what the intelligence community has told us.
He says, I think it was Charlemagne says, I think it was an illegitimate president. Kamala Harris says, yes, exactly. And then she goes on to say, well, we should believe exactly what the intelligence community tells us. Knock, knock, COINTELPRO, FBI, all through the 60s and 70s. Don't have a great track record of always being super honest with the American people, but we won't get into that. Just a little bit ironic, again, coming from the vice president. I know it's a little bit of a heavy day, but Brad commented something funny. I wanted to bring it up. Joe Biden. That's punny. It's a punny thing. Very funny, Brad. Appreciate adding a little bit of levity to this pretty dire situation that I think we're in. That's all I wanted to say today. Again, we're keeping it short and tight. I appreciate you if there's been a couple hundred of you that's been sticking around and watching it and engaging in the comment section. I really appreciate you doing that. I think this is the most important topic that we have in the United States. Is the border important? Absolutely. Is infrastructure important? Absolutely. Is the woke colleges, the schools, all of the things important? Absolutely. But we don't have any of that. We don't have the capacity to argue over any of that if we can't agree that political violence on both sides is terrible. The bottom line is this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had the opportunity yesterday to come out and say, look, January 6th was terrible, but also all of the BLM riots across the country, Antifa trying to burn down federal buildings in Portland, Donald Trump supporters getting beaten outside of rallies. All of that is bad too. Because in my mind, that sort of stuff and the tolerance of it by your lefty media, by people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, is what led to January 6th. And again, the disclaimer is January 6th was terrible, but unfortunately it seemed to be an inevitable conclusion, or it seemed to be an inevitable stop on the very bad continuum and the road that is going to a not good place. That's all I got to say about that. If you missed any part of this segment, podcast, Facebook Live show, Daily Caller Live, you can rewatch on Facebook, rewatch on YouTube. Maybe if you have a neighbor that disagrees with you, maybe share this with them. Again, I have a point of view. I have a perspective. I disagree with Joe Biden on policy a lot, but the policy is not what I was mad about yesterday. What I was mad about yesterday is his unwillingness to condemn political violence on all sides. He picked one instance and decided to just go at that, and that is what I have a massive problem with. And again, this goes both ways. I am not okay with political violence on the right. I'm not okay with political violence on the left. We shouldn't be okay with political violence at all. I wish Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would have condemned it. They did not. Instead, decided to take a partisan stance on a very, very important issue in the United States of America right now. That's going to do it for me this week. We'll be back. There's a lot of stuff that should have been covered today. And I apologize for kind of just staying on this. I guess, again, I think this is the most important issue in the United States of America today. Maybe on Monday, we'll talk about SCOTUS hearing the vaccine mandate oral arguments. What else is there? Some of the DAs. There was a report on Fox middle of this week. We're going to play it on Monday, talking about DAs in Manhattan, or a DA specifically in Manhattan that is insane, and you have to hear it. And we'll get all of that stuff next week. So, thanks for sticking with us all this week. I think I'm done talking about January 6th entirely. Like, not next year, not the year. Like, I'm just done talking about it. The coverage of it is insane. All of it is insane. It was a terrible thing. But given the fact that the left completely ignores all of the other instances. And look, okay, sorry. Last thing. If somebody says whataboutism, because I think I saw in the comment section, oh, this is whataboutism. Whataboutism is a dumb thing. It is a dumb word that you don't get silenced with that word. If somebody says, well, this is whataboutism, you say, no, it's consistency. Whataboutism is just a random word made up by your lefty media to ignore the bad things that happen on their side and then just talk about the bad things that happen on your side. So it's not whataboutism. It's trying to provide some sort of congruency and consistency to how we talk about events in this country. All right. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for tuning in all week, especially those of you who watch every single day. You can listen to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. We will see you bright and early, same time, same place Monday. We got some really interesting guests coming up Monday. Also some fun personal announcements. If you haven't got a chance, I would appreciate a follow on all of your social media platforms at JOBOB. If you want to talk about this a little bit more, I respond to pretty much all the messages I get on Instagram, unless you're a jerk and the voice of white supremacy. Yeah, I don't respond to that stuff, but you can message me on pretty much any social media platform, and I get back to most of it. At JOBOB on Instagram, at JOBOB, pretty much everywhere. Just type in Jobob, JOBOB, pretty much all of the social media platforms. You can find me there. We can have a conversation. Maybe we can continue this conversation a little bit. But you can find me on all the social media platforms. Other than that, we will see you bright and early, same time, same place. God bless America. See you Monday.